Welcome to the Reinventing the Tattoo community. Guy Aitchison has brought us all together, tattooers, apprentices, and collectors, and we are all encouraged to join these live events, share, inspire, and ultimately just create better art and tattoos together. This is going to be an InkJet Stencils demo with Donna, the founder, and you'll see her at all of the conventions. And when we have conventions again. But until then, we were happy to have her demo some of the software, demo the printer, show you some stencils, and then let you know how you can get some samples. So instead of just getting the system, which you probably will once you try it out, you can get some stencils first to check them out. So we are now beaming out through some Facebooks and the YouTubes, but the best way to always find these events will be through the Reinventing the Tattoo Community mobile app at either of the app stores, or if you go to community.reinventingthetattoo.com. And if you are on Facebooks or the YouTubes, just know that the community or the Reinventing the Tattoo YouTube channel will be the definitive places for you to find the schedule and all of these events. I'm going to share my screen real quickly here so that you can see where these events and stuff are. Oh, hopefully here we go. Okay, this is the Reinventing the Tattoo campus, and these are our event schedules. So today is the Spotlight with InkJet Stencils. We have Oh, I am hearing myself. Don, are you hearing me double?
No, just once.
Okay. Well, so I've got myself in the background I need to kill, but this is a perfect time to pass this to Donna, who is going to demonstrate the InkJet Stencils printer. So let me get out of the way here. Donna, thank you very much for walking us through this.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here. Like you said earlier, no conventions, for a while. And that was one of the fun things about doing conventions is offering the inkjet stencils to anybody who wanted one at the shows. And some shows we would print like 1,000 stencils a day. And we knew because you have a ream of 500 sheets of paper. And so now, you're out of paper, you just printed 500 sheets.
Sure.
So I use a stock Apple software, whether it's my laptop or my desktop today. And I just use the preview edit. Sometimes I edit in the photo section, but I'm just going to demonstrate what I do, what I have been doing for a few years at conventions, and let people know that even though there are no conventions, you can still get a sample. I'm printing them in my office here in San Jose. We have a distributor in Canada that has a setup and will print samples for artists in Canada. We also have a printer set up in Barber in the UK, and they have the ability to print samples too. We have distributors worldwide on every continent, and so it should not be a problem for anybody to get samples that wants it.
Cool. And so this is like perfect for somebody who's not quite sure they want to buy the printers. Now, they're eco-friendly printer or eco-tank printers? What exactly is the...
Eco-tank printer. Eco-tank printer. So we have this in development for about 8 years, and the limiting factor was cartridges. All printers had cartridges. And it was a problem because you can't get a new cartridge. And you can't start a business using used cartridges. I mean, you can't clean them. You don't have a reliable supply source. And so then when the EcoTank printers came out in 2017, it was perfect because the printers are clean, they're new, they come with an empty tank. We put our ink in the tank and boom, we're in business. So it's an Epson EcoTank. Our ink is formulated specifically for the Epson piezo print head technology. It has these tiny little holes in the ink, which is actually a dye, goes through the holes and prints onto the paper. And the result is 5,000 dots per inch on a single ply paper. That's less than half the cost per sheet of a traditional, multi-ply paper. So it's
Awesome.
higher quality and lower cost, and everything's made in the USA.
And somebody was in the chat room earlier asking maybe about some troubleshooting with a printer. And you're happy. You probably have a lot of experience with these printers. So if people have questions, they can get a hold of you first.
Right, right. And my cell phone number is everywhere. I probably get a couple calls a day at least from people, artists. The printers, they're just printers. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But I have set up about 40 printers myself. It shows, and then if a new model comes out, I buy it. I try it out in my office for a while. Most recently, we set up that really big one in Andre's shop. But and a lot of people ask the same questions. Can I use a Canon or an HP? And the answer is no, because it has a different print head technology. A lot of the other printer companies copied and now have a tank option, but the Canons come pre-loaded with ink. So we consider the Canon or the printer ink a contaminant. We don't want people putting printer ink on skin. So Epson makes a very high quality printer. The desktop versions are very low cost. You can get them for, sometimes $159, $199, $229. The simpler or the lower cost, the better. They all have the same print technology. Paying more for the printer isn't going to give you better technology. There's me.
Uh-huh.
Are you sharing that one?
Yeah, this is going out.
Yeah, so that's the very first large scale stencil that was ever printed. Andre and I, we collaborated on that. We were so excited when that happened. Oh my goodness.
Looks like it. So let's see. So Andrew says hi from Brisbane, Australia. Still tattooing in old Queensland. Sandy's in the room. SJ says good morning. Jason Bancroft says good morning. Ali says doing good. How are you? So there's a good chunk of people in the room here.
Good.
So okay. So you were going to show us a little bit of the process.
Yep. Should I share my screen now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Okay. So what I have here is a half a dozen or so different images. This one, it looks like it may have been a hand drawing somebody gave me at a show. And what I did is if it's a hand drawing, I scan it in and then I flip it. So if you want it to look like this on the skin, it needs to be flipped because it's going to print on the paper, on the top of the paper like this, and then it's going to go on the skin like that. So flipping it is important unless it's symmetrical. So I'm in preview. I don't know if you can see all the way up here in the top. I'm using an iMac desktop, and I go into tools here. Just color, it pops up the tool menu. And so what I'm going to do, let's see, tool, I'm going to flip it. Okay, that's all you do. So this is important because especially if you have lettering or a clock or numbers or something, you don't want it to be mirrored. It's not a big deal if you print it and you're like, oh, it's wrong, because for 5 cents you can print another one. But it does have to be flipped before you start. And in this adjust color, it gives you this screen, and you can do the exposure. I wonder what happened there. You can do, let's see. This one adjusts the color, but of course it's black and white. Contrast. It looks like I have duplicate image. Shadows. You can see how the image is changing. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Sharpness. This will take a fuzzy line and make it clean.
JS in the chat room is asking if this will be recorded and can be viewed later. Love it, but I got to hop off for an appointment in a couple of minutes. And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. This will be recorded up on the Reinventing YouTube channel. We'll get it over to InkJet Stencils. And yes.
Okay. Thanks for your question. Here's another one. I think I just downloaded this image from the internet. And it's nice because it shows a lot of the gray, and it's a good one to use this editor. So again, you can flip it, adjust the color, and this will give you this menu, if you would, to change the image to give you the best stencil. If you printed this one the way it is now, that really black area would just be a big blob. And so by changing these, the shadow, the highlights, let's see down here, the sharpness is probably a good one for this one. It's going to change the quality of the image. And this is like any new technology, you're going to want to, get your learning curve. Your first crack may or may not, work out, but the ability to edit these things so quickly and so easily on a digital editor is one of the benefits of this tool.
So and actually, Sandy, real quick, Sandy was just answered in here. I think it's preview. You're still in preview, correct?
I am in preview.
Could you show us how you got to this option?
Or to these options? I think I can. I'm going to just go in my. This is a list of all my files. And I'm going to go.
I mean, that window that just went away. Like I've used preview a million times, but I've never seen where you were editing the image.
Oh, the tools.
Yeah. So when
I'm going to open this. I just opened a file. Okay, so this is a JPEG. Okay. Okay, this is just a JPEG. I downloaded a JPEG.
Yeah. And the window with all of these options here in the in the graph. Yeah, which window is that?
Okay, you go in Tools up here in the upper left. Tools. You see?
Yep. Yep.
In Preview, and then you got Adjust Color.
Uh-huh.
And it's like an equalizer,
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
okay.
You can do that. Okay, so this is a really nice image. And going back to tools, I'm just going to flip it. I mean, that's how easy it is. And the exposure is going to, I don't know where that line came from, but, you can change it to a high or low contrast. That's a high contrast. So it's, basically black and white, or a low contrast. It makes it really gray. So the gray, and again, this is you're going to get your own style that is going to fit your, what works for you. And the benefit is, you can digitally edit things just to how you like them. I don't use Procreate or Photoshop. There's all kinds of other, ways to do it with those tools. But I found that this tool, just as a preliminary, is works. It gives you lots of options. So here I'm adjusting the sharpness. It's getting really fuzzy, and if I move it over, it gets really sharp. Okay, it's still a low contrast. There's a lot of gray, This one might make a really good stencil. In fact, let me just print it. We can take a look at it.
Cool. We have, while you're doing that, we've got some comments here in the YouTube chat room. Michael says, good morning from Roscoe, Illinois. Mike Roberts says, we're putting in our order on the 2nd. So pumped. Ryu says, morning from Black Derma in Utah. Let's see. Okay, so actually have, let's see, Mike Roberts says, mixing my Procreate and Tattoo stencil app has changed my stencils, then throw this printer in the mix. Damn. Let's see, they're all saying hi to each other a little bit. And then Mike Roberts, I got so used to freehand, but I love this printer. And yeah, and then some thanks for the content. Thanks for watching.
Okay, I got my printout. And how's that image? Is that good? Can you see it?
Yeah, if you go move it up just a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, so this one, again, it's a low contrast. It's sharp, so it doesn't have the fuzzy, shadow. This one could work, but I'm going to print you another one with changing the exposure or the contrast. And I really like the high contrast portraits. If I was an artist, I mean, I quilt and I paint, but I don't tattoo. But I like the high contrast. And so I'm going to just print this one. And you can see the difference. Another thing you can do in this editor is you can select just what you're going to print. In other words, to try and get rid of the background. So that's in the same tools. Let's see, up here, I don't know if you can see, you can select a rectangle, an elliptical, or lasso. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. I just printed the higher contrast image. So this one, you can see the difference between, between these two. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
how's that? Does that look pretty good?
Yeah, you
see
can
the
definitely tell the difference. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's just, you just slide these things over and it gives you a different, totally different image. So I'm going to try and lasso. Oh, he's, let's see. It's going backwards.
We've got Levin says, hey there, greets from Georgia, the country.
Oh, nice.
We do have a question. So when you're done with this, we've got a
Okay.
question about some large scale back piece or sleeve stencils. So.
Okay, I can take the question.
Okay, so this is Leo Gonzalez, an amazing painter out in New Mexico, and an awesome tattooer too. And this is a great question for him. So he's wondering how he could scan a large scale back piece or sleeve and then have it stenciled to the correct size. So he's doing a lot of paintings and whatnot, I imagine, and yeah.
Yeah, so what Andre does, he does his on Procreate. I think he also uses Adobe Photoshop. And what he says, because the Procreate has a limit of 36 inches. And so to make it bigger than 36 inches, he says he vectorizes it. That doesn't mean anything to me because I don't use that tool, but that's what he does to get. And then there's somehow he puts in what size paper he wants to print it on. And the one that you showed earlier, I think was probably the paper is 24 inch wide. And I think the image was probably somewhere 24 or 30 inches in length. But those printers will print banners, so they don't have any limit on how long it can be. If you we're printing banners or something, really long ones. So did that answer the question for who was asking?
For Leo, we'll find out. But yeah, so I mean, ultimately, okay. Someone could resize their images in Photoshop to match the scale in real life, or to the scale they would like it to be in real life, and then print it from Photoshop.
Right.
Okay, so Jason,
Let's
well, so we'll
see.
ask. So Leo, if that helped, let us know. If not, we can figure out another solution. Jason Bancroft, so what printer setting are you using? I'd have to use a glossy print for it to be dark. So what printer settings?
So it depends on the printer. I'm using a monochrome printer, so it just has one tank. Okay. If you are printing line work and you want a really dark, crisp line, I suggest printing in color if you have a color printer. What it does is it pulls the ink from 4 tanks instead of just one. So if you print black only, you're going to save ink and your line is not going to be as dark. Again, this is one of the advantages of the tool, that it gives you the choice that's going to suit your desired result. So again, if you print with a color printer and you print color, you're going to use 4 times, well, anyways, more ink than you would if you just did black only with a color printer or started with a monochrome printer.
Okay, so
The
Leah,
paper setting, the paper setting is, I choose matte, but on the InkJet Stencil artist group on Facebook, people do all kinds of things. So again, it's, you're just going to find out what works best for you. One of the other printer settings that I think is important is the speed. Okay, if you're in an office and you got to make, 30 copies for a meeting, you probably want the thing to come out pretty fast. But if you're an artist and you want the highest quality print, you put it on slow, and it's going to take 3 seconds instead of a half a second, but it's going to be a higher quality print. So I believe that more important than the paper itself is the setting for the speed. And I think all printers have that option in the printer menu.
cool. So Leo says yes, that answers his question. Thank you. Ethan Anderson says good morning, guys. Jason Lesser says hello, everyone. Hey, Jason. We also have another question here, Andrew. So Andrew, who are in the YouTube chat room, says we have the Epson printer adapted to be able to print designs for clothing. Can we get a link up for the adapters, please? So are there adapters for the current printers to use the EcoTank? And I guess another question that I have is, can you switch back and forth, or like?
Once the printer is set up for the InkJet Stencils,
It's set up.
I mean, that's the only ink that's in there. Everything's going to be purple.
Yep.
There is a way to drain the ink out of the tank.
Yeah. It becomes your stencil printer, which is cool.
Yeah. And, I say purple lives matter. I mean, I print everything in my office purple, shipping labels, contracts. If I have to sign off on something, I print it in purple, I take a picture of it, I change it to black and white, and there it goes. But everything's purple in my office. So,
So then the question from the chat room, is there an adapter for the printer?
Not that I'm aware of. These are off-the-shelf printers. You buy them in any big box store. In the tank, they're tanks instead of cartridges, and the tanks come empty. And you just, yeah.
And then the other question from Andrew is thank you. Oh, he says thank you. So it's mainly carbon ink?
No, it's methyl violet, which is a dye.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not carbon, it's methyl violet. It's the same methyl violet that's in traditional stencils. It's not as dense because it is in liquid form to go through the printer, but the dye is the same dye that's in traditional stencils, purple.
Cool.
Okay. You got another question, or should I go with this baby?
Yeah, no, carry on, and
okay.
We'll collect any questions, and if we don't get to everybody, we'll be doing these again.
So another portrait, baby portraits are great, and getting them right is important. You want the eyes to be in the right place. So this one, it's just an stock internet, baby. And again, I'm going to show you this editing the contrast, this changing it more to gray. Okay, changing it more to a high contrast. You see the difference?
Yeah.
Changing shadows, less shadows. It's going to be more of a flat face, more shadows you see on the side of the face. And then the sharpness is another good one, because it'll take you can go fuzzy or you can go crisp. Okay. And again, the tool allows you to make the image that's best for your style. Okay. You're the one that's going to tattoo it, so you want the stencil to be your style. I'm going to look for a color. Okay. I took this photo on my walk the other day in my neighborhood. And if I was going to try and make a stencil out of this, I'm going to step you through the process here. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is, I got rid of the color. Did you see that? This is called saturation. Okay. And I'm changing it to black and white. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing I'm going to do is look at the contrast. That's pretty gray the way it is. There isn't, but if I go to the contrast, the flowers, let me see, I'll make it a little bigger. A lot of detail comes out of those flowers in a digital photo. Oops, that's too high. You see how it's changing?
Mm-hmm.
You see all the shadows in the petals and things like that. And let me see if I can get rid of this. Sometimes this smart lasso works and sometimes it doesn't. So the menu selection here is a smart lasso. All you digital tattoo artists are probably somewhat familiar with this, to allow you to get rid of the background. You can, print the whole thing and then cut it out with scissors later, but you're just wasting ink if you're going to print a whole page of just lots of purple. Okay, so then the command here is crop. It's converting it to a PNG. Okay, so now that I got rid of that, go back to adjust the color, make it a little bigger so I can see. And you got all kinds of detail in there. You have little pollen in the bottom petals, and you can see right into those flowers. So let's see if I change the exposure a little bit and see if I can make it a little crisper. And I'm just going to print that and see what it looks like.
Cool. And speaking of printing, are you just printing on regular printer paper, Allie asks?
Good question. I am printing on Pacone tracing paper, PACON. When we started field testing in 2017, we bought printers for 6 shops across the U.S. And one of the shops, it was Red House Tattoo near Buffalo, New York. And they went out and bought 20 different types of paper and tested them all. Some were too thick, some were too thin. We thought we'd have to use vellum. There's a product called InkJet Vellum. It prints really well, but it's thick, and so it doesn't conform to the skin very well. So InkJet Vellum, if you're doing small tattoos, it doesn't matter if it's going to have to conform to the skin much. The vellum is good. It's like 20 cents a sheet. The paper that we sell is 5 cents a sheet, retail, and it mics out the same thickness as the spirit paper, but it's a little, people tell me it's a little stiffer as far as conforming to the body. We are using a 8-pound paper, which is ultra thin tracing paper on the large format printers. That is an off-the-shelf ultra thin tracing paper that comes on a roll. When you print the paper on a roll, just the mechanical handling of the really thin paper allows it to print. If you just printed an 8-pound sheet on a desktop printer, it wouldn't handle because the paper just doesn't have enough stability. So I hope that answered your question. This one didn't turn out so great. It's like a big blob. So this one probably wasn't the best example for me to show. Even though it looks really white on the screen, for some reason, it's in this one, I don't know if this is going to be any better.
Mike just asked the same thing. What's the best kind of paper to print for stencil? I use a lot of. Okay, so he's asking, and then he specifies, so maybe this makes a difference. I use a lot of lines in my work, and I do a lot of big tattoos, but I'll never use the color. Is the monochromatic printer that bad with lines?
I use a monochrome printer, and it's good with lines. You actually have a setting, a density setting, so you can make it lighter or darker. And I think this preview editor might give you that option. Yeah, this one is not looking too good either. And you can see vertical lines on this one. So this is probably not the best example, but I'm showing it to you anyways because, you know, when you're trying to figure out how to get it, you're gonna, you know, make a few tries before you get your optimal result. I'm going to switch to this guy. And this is another one where you can let's see.
So while you're doing that, Jason Bancroft is asking, what is the smallest printer that is EcoTank for possible travel use? Or is there one?
Yes, there really isn't one for travel. They come in a really good box that has the styrofoam on both sides. And so if you're not going to take it on a plane, you're not going to put it in luggage. But if you're driving, you can keep it in the box, and it's really safe in the box. But they don't make a small one. I was working with Troy Temple early on. I gave him a setup to print at conventions. That was one of my intentions, is to, you know, have this available for people at conventions. But I got some pushback from the guys that were committed to the old school stencils. So anyways, it's my intention to, you know, have this at every convention, and, you know, it's possible that it's going to still happen.
Okay, so let's see. It's fun. As people bounce around the videos and bounce in and out, some of these questions might pop up again, but it's worth asking so that everybody who's bouncing around these videos will catch the answer.
Right.
So one is, what program, Mike Roberts is asking, what is the program used to control settings? It's amazing because people aren't used to seeing it. It's just straight up preview.
Right. You just open any document, you know, you have is on your computer, and you double click on it to open it, and it's preview until you save it into your photos or something.
And then you're going up to like edit colors, or what was the?
I'm in preview, and I hit tools. Tools, adjust color.
Perfect. And
tools.
Andrew was asking if it's possible to use general A4 printing paper.
It is possible. It all depends on what fits in your printer. So we launched this in the US, and originally the early models, ET 2650, 2550, 2750, they originally took a 9x12 paper. But the newer ones only take 8.5x11 in the US. The models vary around the world based on the power and the outlet, the electronics and that type of thing. But so the 9x12, I think that's what A4 is. Is that correct? That paper, they sell that paper in the ream at art stores, 9x12. But for 8.5x11 or 9x12, it doesn't make sense for me to carry two sizes and say, if you're in Europe, buy this size. If you're in the US, buy that size. But all printers will take 8.5x11. We also make it 8.5x14. If you want a larger, it's a legal size, gives you a little more printable area for bigger tattoos.
And then just to clarify, Mike Roberts is pretty excited. He's like, no way. So this could print from the iPad Pro?
Yes.
And, yeah, just.
And Epson has an app. It's called iPrint. It's a free app. And I understand from talking to other artists that the iPrint app will give you a better quality print than if you print direct from Procreate. So you go to iPrint, you pick the image and print from there. And I understand that gives better results.
Cool.
I'm just going to use this little motorcycle. This is a pencil drawing again, something I just downloaded from the internet, but it was, kind of representative here. You can change the shadow to get, get rid of or make it fuzzy. The contrast you can change to get rid of some of the grays. Sorry, my dog is crying in the background.
He wants to be on the
well, she wants to get out of the room, but anyway, so you can see this. You can tell I flipped it once before, and I'm going to print this out. This is a good one. I don't have any line drawings pulled up on my screen. Here's one. Let's see. This is another one. It's an artist drawing, whether it's pen and ink or pencil, charcoal, or whatever. Again, once you have the digital image, you can sharpen it up, change the contrast, and changing the contrast will make the dark darker. Get rid of the shadows if you want. And I'll print this one. So here's the motorcycle guy.
Okay, so you need to stop screen sharing so that we can see it big.
Oh, stop screen sharing?
Yeah, because otherwise, we could see it in the corner, but if you stop your screen share, then we could see the stencil big.
Okay. Now, stop share, this little red button here.
Yep.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, that one turned out pretty nice. There's a guy, if anybody's on the InkJet Stencil Artist Group, Sebastian Murphy, he's outside of Detroit. He does some really complex images. He says, with cars and lots of things that are, all in one image. And he says he couldn't do it without InkJet stencils because there's just too much detail that would fall out with the thermal printer. This one turned out pretty nice.
Okay, so I'm gonna Okay, Mike Roberts is asking, if I have a 26 wide by 32 long back piece,
Mhm.
does the printer have a runner for the long sheets? I know that it prints up to 24 inches wide, but for that extra piece, will it print that straight to match up?
I haven't had any experience with that, but what I would say is you could go up to 24-inch wide. That's the biggest width that the printer holds. And then if you wanted to do a 2-inch by the length, you just print that in two and print it out. Or, figure out a way to, optimize the two pieces. If you wanted to have one big piece and one little piece, or if you wanted to split it in two and have two pieces that were more like the same. And one of the things that Andre did, because he did my back, is the first session, he started from my waist down. That was one, he printed the whole thing, but he only tattooed half of me in one day and the other half in the other day. So if you're going to work on a design that way in multiple sessions, then you might think about cutting the design and putting it on paper for a one-day session. Just
That's fun that you're getting that on your back. It's gonna great back piece.
yeah, so it's going to be in the next issue of Inked magazine that's coming out next
Awesome.
week or so.
Oh, I bet. Okay, so let's see. So Sandy says, "Wow, very crisp." Jason Bancroft says, "Okay, thanks, LOL." Oh, he was asking about the travel printer. Let's see. He also asks, "So does anyone have any tips on stencils blurring or bleeding when you apply the stencil?"
So in my experience, there's two things that lead to the bleeding or the blurring. Traditional stencils contain lanolin, which is a sheep oil, and lanolin is like a grease in that it's like lipstick, going on the creases of your lips. The other reason that these things would bleed or smear is probably better, is if the stencil prep is not tacky, like you spray it on and you rub it in and it's wet, the paper can slide around and then you're going to get a big blur. The best thing to do when applying the stencil is make sure that whatever material you're using to apply the stencil, transfer formula, it's got to be tacky so that it will hold it in place. And for stencil prep, we rub it around and it's basically a soap. And when it starts to foam and it feels tacky, that's when you put it on and you're going to hold it on and, press firmly. To eliminate the smear is to just keep it from moving. A lot of people don't know this, and some people do. The methyl violet is a dye, and when the pH of the skin is neutral, the methyl violet will dye the skin. Methyl violet is a pH indicator. It's in those things you put in your pool, your hot tub, or your fish tank. If it turns purple, it's neutral, okay? And so when the pH of your skin is neutralized, the methyl violet will dye the skin and it'll stay on until the skin falls off. So if you misplace the stencil, best thing is to clean it off with alcohol or hand sanitizer and then, get it off right away. Because if it's on there for a few minutes, it's on there for a few days.
Cool. Okay.
Any other questions?
There's no other questions or comments right now, but
okay.
So detail the skin first was a question from Mike.
Detail the skin first.
Dettol, Dettol.
Oh, Dettol. So people use all kinds of things. I'm not sure how Dettol affects the pH of the skin. It may work. I haven't had a lot of feedback on Dettol. But again, the objective is to neutralize the pH of the skin so that the dye will dye the skin cells.
Cool. Cool. So do you want to show us maybe one more demo, or and then see if there's any more questions while we do that?
Here's another cat. This one. Let me see if I can do this one. Do I have my screen sharing on?
Nope.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay, this one. I'm going to get rid of some of these, well, the shadows. I'm just going to print this one like it is.
Oh, yeah, cool.
I don't know if you can see this when I send it to the printer. This is where you can kind of scale it, okay? So I can fit the page, and it's going to fill the page with the image. And I know that that page is 11 inches. And so if I want to make it 10 inches, I'm probably going to go down 10%. So this scale right here, you see, is 130% to fill the whole thing. So if I go down 10% less, I'm going to go down to 117. Okay, that took me down 10% less. Another way for you to understand what the scale is before you print it is to open in PDF preview. And what this does, this gives you the actual size. So sometimes at conventions, you know, people come up with a paper towel that's measured with some pencil lines. This is how big this, you know, we want to make the tattoo. And so if you open it in PDF preview, you can measure it with a measuring tape or hold up your little, you know, hand markings for the area you're going to tattoo and just see it. You can scale it. If this is too big, you can just go back and change the size to make it bigger or smaller. One thing that you know, sometimes families will come in and they want, you know, 3 people want the same memorial tattoo. And, you know, one's a big husky guy and then there's 2 skinny little gals. And so you want maybe 2 or 3 sizes of the same image. It's nice. This tool is nice too, because you can just, you know, plunk half a dozen or multiple images on one piece, on one page, different sizes, and just put them all out at once. I'm going to print this one. And while that's printing, okay, another benefit, flash. Okay, you got Valentine's Day, you got Halloween, you know, Christmas, you know, you got your flash day, and you're having, you know, low cost flash tattoos that for a benefit or something. You can print these all ahead of time. You have them in your drawer. You cut out the ones you need. The ones you're not using, you just keep them in your drawer, and you can put them on the skin anytime. So the image will stay clean on the paper, you know, in your drawer for a long time. This one actually turned out pretty nice. Okay, should I go back to stop share?
Yeah, if you want to show the screen big. Yep, perfect.
Yeah. This one, it turned out pretty nice.
A little higher?
Higher, okay.
There you go.
You can see the beads are really nice. You know, her eye, her face, the earrings, everything turned out really nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we do have another question here. So this is from Jason, who was asking about the blurring and the bleeding when applying the stencil. He says he now uses Eco Stencil from Electrum. Does that matter, or does certain papers matter for better or worse, or is it dependent on the artist? Or
so I won't address the other product, but what I will say is I think the blurring is more to do with how wet or tacky the skin, the transfer formula is on the skin than anything else. The other thing, maybe you want to print the stencil on the paper and be sure it's dry. There's a lot of alcohol in the formula, and it's designed to like dry after it comes out of the printer, like any other print. You know, you print something, it takes a few seconds before the print is dry on the paper. Maybe if you're putting the paper where the ink is still wet, that might cause some bleed.
Cool. Let's see. So Bashjan says, I don't have a problem with skin, but on fake skin, it doesn't work so good.
There were a number of people addressing the fake skin and there's a couple other products, but the silicone skin. And so there's a number of people on the InkJet Stencil Artist group on Facebook that have addressed that. I haven't personally tried it myself, but what I saw one guy did was he put the stencil on the fake skin and like put a book on it or a phone book or something heavy and left it on overnight. So it doesn't, I don't know how traditional stencils work on that fake skin, but people have had success. And again, there's more information in that group. People are very helpful sharing their tips for this system in that group.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we're just about on an hour, and frankly, we can get you back almost, well, not any time. Obviously, you're pretty busy, but we can definitely have you back.
Anytime. I'm happy to do this. But here, so anybody who wants a stencil, and I think this is going to be recorded, but email your digital file to me, inkjetstencils@gmail.com. I will print your stencils with your image and put them in the mail to you. So I need your mailing address, what size you want the finished stencil to be. If people put lettering on there, you'll know if it's facing the right way. Your phone number would be helpful in case I open your file and have some questions. And again, we can't go to conventions, but we can still get the samples to you this way. I can personally print on up to 8.5 by 14 paper. So far, I don't think Andre is offering the service of printing because he's a one-man shop. He doesn't have like an office manager or something. So anyways, I can print up to 8.5 by 14 and get those off to you in the mail. If you have, half a dozen people in your shop, they all want to send it, I can print them all and put them in the mail. It's no problem. I also include a bottle of Stencil Prep if people haven't tried it. It's worth trying. So.
Awesome. Cool. And then, Andre also has some videos of you printing out that back piece. And if people want to purchase, it's just inkjetstencils.com? Is that the?
It's actually tattooderm.com. We are the inventor of Tattooderm. That's our website. And we also sell on Amazon. People always want to know if it's fake or real, if it's on Amazon. We fill Amazon orders. We have 65 distributors around the world on every continent. And it's pretty readily available.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. This is fun, and it was exciting to relay all the comments from the chat room, and there was definitely a good chunk of excitement. And the last thing that I could ask, if you could take pictures of those stencils so that we could upload them to the to the description, so that people can see, because obviously with the webcams and whatnot, if they really want to take it. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, I'll send those to you on email later today.
Perfect. And then, now is the time to